Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, Brewer fans, welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast with myself and with me today, Vince. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
I'm doing fine, Craig. Yeah, happy New Year. I'm doing fine. Do we have Scotty or Chad on here today?
No, we did not. But yeah, we wish them both a happy New Year as well. They're busy men, apparently. But we're here to talk some Brewer baseball. So thanks to all our listeners chiming in here. I guess let's start with any pertinent transactions the Brewers have had since I guess our Christmas episode, which was our last episode. Unfortunately, we did not sign Corbin Burnes, but he did sign with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we will get So I mean, unfortunately, that he won't be coming back to Milwaukee, but I'm sure he could burn some bridges or whatever. Well,
both of us were also incorrect about his final destination. It was the Arizona Diamondbacks, as I'm sure all of our listeners are well aware at this point. I had picked the Giants. I just felt like that was kind of a natural fit. He's originally from California, and they had the money, and they were actively looking at free agents, as we saw by their signing Willy Adames a week or two before. So I was incorrect about that one.
Yeah, I don't think any of us picked the Giants for Adames either. But so I guess the only really big Brewer news since we last taped was the Brewers did sign who was DFA'd by the Rangers, and that's right-handed relief pitcher Grant Anderson. What are your thoughts for him? I know that he pitched at AAA last year for the Sugarland Space Cowboys, so I was hoping maybe you or Lena have some firsthand accounts of his pitching. But regardless, what are your thoughts on that move?
Wasn't he with Round Rock last year? I thought he was with Round Rock, the Rangers AAA team.
He may have. Oh, he was. Yeah. What did I say? Sugarland, is that the
Sugarland is Houston now. It's the Sugarland Skeeter. We did go to a couple of Sugarland games last summer. They're always fun. It's like 30 minutes down the road from us, not even actually, and it's the Astros AAA team, so it's really close to Houston.
It was Round Rock then. So my bad. I got mixed up.
Yeah, that's all right.
The two Texas team AAA affiliates. My bad.
No, that's all right. We've actually been to a few different games in Round Rock over the years, but we didn't get there last year, unfortunately. So anyways, the Brewers have this penchant for getting these guys that are, you look at their numbers and you're like, there's not really a reason why you pick up a guy like this. But that being said, I think that the Brewers are kind of accruing some depth in the system, and that's always a good thing. Number two, they must be intrigued by some of his peripherals and think that he could be a fix-it candidate in the Brewers, pitching lab, so to speak. I think that they kind of like having a side armor now that Milner's gone. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they see in him, but I do have confidence in the Brewers pitching development team to get the most out of anybody that they bring in, quite frankly, to the system at this point. And if the Brewers were going to go ahead and target a guy like this, there's a reason for it typically. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of excited about it actually, because a couple seasons ago, and now he's 27 years old now, and he has not had much success at the major league level yet. He hasn't had that much opportunity, but I think his ERA is over 6 at the major league level. Obviously, he's a side armor with a little bit of control problems, but I think the Brewers, he has some nice pitches, and I think the Brewers see something in him. And a couple of years ago, I literally thought he had a good opportunity to become the Rangers closer. Obviously, that didn't happen, but I still think that he's young enough to, become a real nice back of the bullpen piece, closer or not. So again, the Brewers are starting to get this awesome reputation of being able to uncover diamond in the rough type bullpen arms. And again, it seems like they really identify pitchers that with one pitch that they really like, and then just hone in on that or whatnot, and refine their pitching skills through their quote unquote pitching lab or whatnot. And so far it's done wonders for a lot of these guys. So So to me, you can't have as many bullpen arms, and he does have an option left, I believe. So which is really a thing that the Brewers value. So he'd be able to
Yeah.
be shuttled back and forth from AAA this year. So again, the sign makes tons of sense to me, and yeah, I'm excited to have him as a Brewer. So welcome, Grant
Yeah,
Anderson.
and just for our listeners, reference point, just looking at his big league numbers, and you or Brandon can get into the minor league numbers a little bit more, but big league numbers not there yet. His WAR in at negative 1.3. His ERA, as you mentioned, Craig, is over 6.35 ERA on his career, 8.10 ERA last year.
Kind of nitpicking, but all right.
One career save, so not quite the closer that the Rangers probably had envisioned. He's put up over 62 and a third innings of work, and yeah, those are the peripherals. His WHIP is sitting at over 1.5, 1.524. So yeah, the interns have handed me the sheet. Of course, their research could be wrong, but those are the numbers for Mr. Grant Anderson at this point. So not the best, but again, I'm confident the Brewers pitching lab can, work with a guy like Grant if he's got the natural talent, if he's got the, 1 to 2 pitches, especially that one dominant pitch. As you mentioned, if he's a guy that, again, even if the Brewers just like the guy's arm angle, we've seen what they can do with guys that they brought in the past. Even just last year, Jared Koenig comes to mind, Brian Hudson comes to mind. Certainly other guys in the past, couple seasons come to mind. Yoel Pinero comes to mind. There's all sorts of guys. I'm sorry, Yoel Payams.
Yeah, I am.
There's all sorts of guys that the Brewers have, done this with in the last few seasons. So I've got the utmost confidence in a guy like Matt Arnold and our development staff.
Absolutely, the Major League Baseball Executive of the Year for 2024. Absolutely. It is interesting. I didn't, as I'm not a huge fan or advocate of the WAR stat you did throw out there, I didn't even realize that you were saying at the Major League level so far, Grant Anderson has a negative WAR of like 1.3 or something. Wow. I mean,
negative 1.3, negative 1.3. Yeah, so he's literally worth less than according to WAR, which again, it is a controversial stat. So
yeah, that's I didn't even realize you could have negative WAR. In fact, if I had to put a number on it, now that I know that you can have a negative WAR, I would say that my teenage stepdaughter currently has a negative WAR so far, not in baseball, but in life. And I'm really hoping that she gets that in the positives here in the next couple of years, definitely. So
we're all pulling for her, and hopefully the scouting development team has done wonders to help bring up her numbers. The coaching will hopefully fall into place soon.
Yeah, the problem is with her scouting actually, but no, I really hope Grant Anderson, and I'm more than positive that Grant Anderson, well, and my stepdaughter can get their WAR into the positives here with the Brewers for sure. So welcome Grant Anderson. So all right, let's jump into the next thing. Now, this was kind of RB week, so to speak, which again, our listeners don't run out to RBs and ask for the meats or whatever it is. They're not a sponsor, but what I mean by RB week is arbitration numbers were exchanged and whatnot. So the deadline for that, I think, was like yesterday or the day before. And basically, the Brewers did do a great job of signing. And as a small market team, we have a lot of arbitration eligible players, but which is a good thing. But so we were able to come to agreement on almost all our players, save, unfortunately, for our franchise catcher, William Contreras, who we did not. And so the numbers are exchanged, and he is asking for $6.5 million, and we offer, and this is the first year of eligibility, which means he's arbitration eligible for this year and 2 more seasons. So the Brewers do have control over him over those times. We offered 5.6. What are your thoughts on us not coming to agreement in advance? And what are your thoughts on those 2 numbers?
I mean, again, this is coming from outside, of course, and I know we've got press passes and everything, but just kind of looking at this from the outside, it seems like a very small amount for a big league team to be, fighting over with their all-star catcher, their 2-time in 2 seasons as a Brewer team MVP. Obviously, William Contreras is incredibly valuable, and I quite frankly, even if you wanted to try to fight this, I don't see how they could win in an arbitration hearing. I mean, what metric would you use in court with an arbiter to to show that William Contreras is not valuable. I mean, he's one of the top 3 catchers in baseball, in my opinion. I think that, his age alone makes him incredibly valuable, to be that talented, that young. The fact that, again, he's been an all-star, he's been the Brewers team MVP by their own admission. So I just don't know why the Brewers would, fight this as much as they are, to be totally frank. I mean, it's less than $1 million difference. And for, again, a big league team, that is not a ton of money. I know that we're quote unquote small market, or we act like we're small market, but I personally, if I'm the Brewers, I'd be very concerned about goodwill. Now, that being said, business is business. I understand that. But, we saw the situation develop with Corbin Burns, where it got to be a problem in the clubhouse where, you've got your ace pitcher talking about the Brewers' arbitration tactics publicly with reporters, with teammates. The first day of spring training, I really don't want a distraction like that again this year. I don't think that we need it. And we've got, enough problems making up for Willy Adames' lost power at this point. That we really don't need this distraction. So again, I'm not just an advocate of like, oh, you just give the players whatever they want at all, but I do think that this is an amount that, 6.5 million compared to 5.6 million. I don't know why Contreras wouldn't meet in the middle, but he probably won't because he knows that he could win with an arbiter. So if I'm the Brewers, I just do this and save the PR nightmare myself.
Yeah, I share some of your similar thoughts where I guess I don't fully understand why we would try to burn a bridge, so to speak, with especially a franchise player. Now, if this were something with, like our backup catcher, no effect to, no offense to Eric Haas or whatever, but like
who already re-signed, by the way, for a lot cheaper, and
yeah, no,
yeah.
I get that, but I mean the fact of the matter, like this guy's earned it. Bottom line,
Yeah.
period. I'm sorry if I understand that there should be a meeting in the middle spot, but if I'm the Brewers, I would meet a little bit past the middle mark and say, okay, yeah, you earned this. If he still rejected that, I, I got this is a business thing or whatever. I don't know who's all in charge of it, but I guess I hate to say it, but I'm actually rooting for William Contreras to be rewarded everything he's asking for because I feel like our owner is being cheap, and you can call it good business or smart business or whatever, but in reality, no. This is gonna, like you said, this could cause problems online. Now, there's some fans that might want to argue that, hey, well, maybe they were trying to work on a long-term deal and they didn't quite get it done in time. I'm like, well, that's not probably the reality of it. Now, you could also even argue, well, they could get a big, something hammered out between now and the actual arbitration hearing, but that hardly ever happens. So usually if there's going to be something worked out, it's before this deadline that happened this week. So again, and a lot
Sometimes
of
that does happen, though. In fairness, sometimes that does happen. And
yeah,
we did see it happen, I think, with Josh Hader a few years ago, if I recall. But we'll have to have the interns look that up.
yeah, and exactly, yeah. I mean, but it just doesn't feel like that's the case to me because it just doesn't seem like the. Well, first of all, I mean, if the Brewers were really exploring a long-term contract right now, where Contreras is at as an all-star, like his agent, I'm sure is advising him to probably not like give away too many of his first couple of years of arbitration, especially as a catcher, who
Yeah.
careers are a little bit shorter than most other. Um, so you've got to make the money when you can, so to speak. So yeah, this just feels like stupidity on the Brewers' part, but I guess we'll see how it plays out, and we'll give them a pass or whatever. But for the most part, I just like I said, I think it really did affect our relationship with Burns, and even though we were unlikely to give him a long-term contract at any point as a starting pitcher, I really think that we kind of just like burnt that bridge at a point where it wasn't even going to be possible. So.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think that is actually what pushed Burns over the edge. I mean, Burns has talked publicly. I know about this since the Brewers traded him to Baltimore, and said that he actually had approached the Brewers about an extension at one point and was turned down completely. And then the Brewers fought him in arbitration the next year. And it was those two things that really pushed him away from wanting to re-sign with Milwaukee. And again, that comes down to a philosophy that Mark Attanasio has kind of proven again and again that he's going to take the cheaper route. I know we've locked up Christian Yelich to a long-term deal, and we locked up Jackson Churio to a long-term deal. But other than that, the Brewers, have time and time again just shown that they're not willing to invest in our own players and personnel. It's very frustrating.
Not a wise business move, if you ask me, by any means. So, all right, well,
Well, especially this one, Craig. That's this is the one for less than $1 million. That's like wouldn't Scott's hot dog consumption at the ballpark almost make up for this, on any given season? Like, it just
Definitely
seems
his
like such a
alcohol
small amount.
consumption. Yeah. I mean, if you
Yeah,
combine
between
those
beer and
two,
hot dog.
well over the $1 million mark. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I don't understand it. But again, this does happen. It happens to all teams or whatever. So it's not like it's only exclusively our owner, creating this.
No.
We normally actually have done a historically pretty good job of, as an organization of avoiding arbitration hearings. Actually, I'm sure our percentages are lower than most of our teams, to be quite honest. But again, Scott's interns are, we'll get on that for next episode. But,
Yeah. We'll have the interns on it.
just like most Generation Zers, we can't expect a whole lot out of them, but, they'll give it the old college try, I guess. So anyway, all right. Well, I guess the other thing, what's the most surprising offseason development so far? And you can throw out something either the Brewers or anywhere amongst throughout baseball. What's been like kind of the most surprising development so far for you this offseason?
Well, I'm going to stick. Yeah, I'm sorry. Didn't
Yeah, go
interrupt
ahead.
you, Craig. Well, I was going to stay with the Brewers on this one. I'm actually going to, sounds kind of weird. I'm going to say the Brewers just sort of letting Colin Ray go. And that's another breaking news item that's just coming through today. Colin Ray has just signed with the Chicago Cubs right before we started this taping. And it's not that, Colin Ray is the most talented pitcher in baseball. It's just that he was a very serviceable arm last year for Milwaukee. He had 12 wins as a starter, pitched, 32 games. I thought he was just kind of a real stable presence in our rotation. And the other Brewers just not let him go when he was still coming back for a very cheap, reasonable amount, especially after the Brewers prioritized him last offseason and made him the first signing after the 2023 season ended. It was just a surprise to me. I'm not saying we can't overcome it and that we don't have some talent to replace him or that he's irreplaceable. It was just a surprise. So when you're asking about surprises, that to me was definitely one of them.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more on that one. I guess sticking with the Brewers, I'll just throw out there that I was not surprised that we signed or that we traded Devin Williams, but I guess from the Brewers, I was a little surprised by the return. And I'm not saying like the lack of return, but the type of return that we got for him was very surprising to me. Which is but what I mean by that is it was pretty much a win now move. We weren't playing for the future at all. Pretty much in the move, we were trying to trade Williams away, which would again to weaken the team for the next year for another short-term piece in Cortez. That really surprised me. Not that I totally disagree with it, but I was surprised by that. Overall, throughout baseball, I mean, there's a lot of guys still out there that are unsigned. This happens all the time. I guess Pete Alonso comes to the top of the list, but my guess is he'll probably go back to the Mets now on a shorter term deal. Again, it's proving that those corner infield types really, teams are reluctant to give them long-term contracts, anything beyond 3 or 4 years when they're out there asking for 5 or 6 years. A lot of times it just does not happen. So those.
Yeah, Alex Bregman is still on the market as well, as so is Justin Turner. I mean, a lot of guys. And I do have to ask, and maybe we'll address this later on in our show here today, but I mean, are we going to go out and get like a full-time third baseman at any point, do you think? I really think the Brewers need some power in this lineup.
Good question. I looking at the free agents that play third base besides Bregman, who I can almost guarantee we're not going to be signing. There's just no one out there that strikes my fancy. I think if we were going to strike up something, it would be via trade, and that opens up to a lot of possibilities. But at this point, those type of trades are more rare than free agent signings at this point in the offseason, but it's still possible. But I have a feeling we're probably going to be sticking with what we have currently in house, and so that will segue us to our first Rapid Nine in quite a while, if that works for you.
Hey, Craig, you cut out there. Could you repeat that for the audience?
Sure. Yeah, we're going to segue then with that question over to the first question of our Rapid Nine, because it actually has to do with third baseman. All right.
Ooh, all right, let's do it.
Let's go with our first inning here. All
right, is it just you and me playing, or is Scotty joining us? I know he loves Rapid Nine, or is Tom Carter, our anonymous source, playing this round as well?
They could chime in and call it at any time, but so far I'm only seeing you and me here on the old Zoom cast. So let's go with that. So we'll have you lead off each inning. Then of course you're a great leadoff hitter, the igniter I call you. But anyway, all right. So basically, inning number one.
Yeah, if Tom comes in, and sometimes it's anonymous, so it'll say like Tom C or T Carter, or anonymous on Zoom. So if you see that, just you can let him hit second.
Yeah, he usually comes up as TC, but I know it's Tom. So Mr. Carter.
Okay.
All right, first inning. Predict which current Brewer gets the most at bats as a third baseman this year.
Um. I guess Taylor Black.
Okay, that's a guess. I'm glad you didn't steal my guess. I guess I'm going to guess Caleb Durbin, but I'm hoping it's someone who's not on the team yet. But or
Yeah, me too. That's why I had to think for a little bit. I think Tyler Black is probably the guy that makes. That's who I would do with our current crop of guys. But he didn't have that many reps at third last year, did he? In the minors. I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do with Tyler Black at this point. If he's
I think we
candidate.
value as an organization. Well, I'm not going to argue your pick. Your pick is your pick, but I think we value our defense too much as an organization to possibly have that happen. But we'll see how that plays out. So your guess will then be Black, and I'll go with Caleb Durbin just because I can't even see who else. So anyway, let's go to the second inning. Which young?
Well, the other option would be Ortiz, and then some combination of Durbin and Monasterio and Black, a triple-headed monster of some type. But I cannot believe that we're not going to go out and get a third baseman before this season starts, except that's what we do every year. We don't get the guy that I would pick or address the position that I would pick. So I don't know.
I mean, maybe there's like a Jed Jerko out there laying in the weeds somewhere I just can't see, but I'm sure there's some crappy possibilities still. But let's just go with our in-house. The question was who predict which. So really, the question was which current Brewer gets the most at bats, not the one who gets someone who is signed that gets most at bats. Could still be the answer, but which current Brewer? So I guess that's what we had to go with for the question. So
well, and the reason I didn't pick Durbin, which it probably honestly will be Durbin, but Durbin makes so much sense as your top utility guy off the bench when he's got that speed and he's got some power. He's got 10 to 15 home run potential, but that's not their base starter potential in terms of power, in my opinion. But he's got so much speed off the bench. He can play three positions. Like he is like the perfect utility guy. And that is a huge valuable position to fill. We talk about the bench every year before the season starts, and our season preview is usually being an area of need for Milwaukee, and he would fit that role so perfectly. And the fact that we would throw him into a starting role at third base is kind of inexplicable to me when there's other options out there. But
my only guess is Matt Arnold has some kind of weird man crush on him, but his man crushes have come through before, so that's fine. All right,
that's the thing. I can't doubt him. So
yeah, exactly. Executive of the year. Second inning? Here we go. Second inning. Which young Brewers left-handed pitcher receives the most starts in 2025? Aaron Ashby, DL Hall, or Robert Gasser?
Well, it's definitely not going to be Gasser because he's not coming back until September. So no, not him. I'm going to go with DL Hall. I think that Ashby ends up being a reliever, and I'll go with Hall. That could go either way, but I'll pick Hall.
I guess I'll go with Ashby. I put Gasser on there because honestly, I think that none of these three will probably do the more intense starts on the year. And if Gasser comes back and actually there's enough injuries, he probably would get thrown right into the mix and probably make 10 starts. So anyway, no, I'm going to go with Ashby.
Do you think that we're going to have two lefties like that from the bullpen then, or one of them starts in the minor leagues between Hall and Ashby? I said, do you think that Hall and Ashby are both going to be lefties coming out of the bullpen, or that one of them goes to the minor leagues to start the year?
I'm guessing that Hall goes to the minor leagues to start off the year and stays stretched out as a starter for whenever we need him or whenever he forces the hand. I think Ashby will start in the bullpen, but because of in-house injuries, that he will transition back to the rotation and get some starts and solidify himself as a starter by the end of the year. But I really don't know. Like I said, it's most likely that either Ashby or Hall will stay in the bullpen this year and then beyond, and one of them will probably end up back in the rotation. I don't know which one it'll be, but we'll see. So I still think Ashby has a high ceiling as at least a number 3 starter if he does transition back to that. So we'll see.
I know. I was just kind of thinking about it. He also has I think a pretty good ceiling as a reliever too, and I like that lefty power arm coming out of the bullpen. especially if we bring up Mizrowski, I like to have, it's great. You've got guys, coming at you out of the bullpen left and right, literally. I know, well, DL Hall, the reason I picked him is because the Brewers told him that he could get a chance at starting. And last year he only lost that chance because he was injured. And I have a feeling that going into the spring training, at least, he's going to be told that he's going to get another chance at starting. But
Yeah,
we'll
I was going to pick Hall, but you stole my thunder. So anyway,
okay.
but I honestly think between the three of them, it could be any. So that's why that's questions in here. So anyway, and I know that Scott started our tradition of, taking their time with the rapid nine, but anyway, we are only up to the third inning. This is like a lot of pitches, a lot of pitches being thrown in each inning. That's okay though. But here we go. We might not make it through the fifth here with our current pace. We're throwing a lot of. So anyway, third inning, long term. Do you think prospect Jacob Mizrowski, right-handed pitcher, will be a long-term starter or a long-term bullpen arm?
I think the bullpen probably for the next couple of years, and it's going to be what happened with Hader, where we end up keeping him out there because he does so well and is dominant in that role.
All right, I'm going to say long-term he'll become a starter. I'll probably be wrong on that one, but that's what I wish for him because I really think he has a ceiling of a number 2, if not an ace starter, if he can ever figure it out. So I think the Brewers, rather than, ticket him for this year's bullpen, even though that's probably what would help the team the fastest and the best, probably owe it to him to spend one more year mostly at the minor leagues and see if he can make it as a starter before then doing that later in this year. But I don't know what their plan is for him. But if I was running the organization, that's what I'd do. But who knows? So, all right, fourth inning. This is the next two questions are called over/under questions. Which all right, so you could either pick one or the other, over or the under. The over/under on third base starts for Sal Frelick in 2025. 10 third base starts. Over or under?
Under, yeah.
Okay.
He's not playing third base.
I'm going to go with under 2. And he was kind of like a sneaky possible answer for our number 1, but neither of us picked him because there's been some talk again. Murphy keeps saying, well, he could start at third. And again, we have a little problem with the glut of outfielders with Churio, Mitchell, and Frelick, the 3 young guys pretty much getting most of the playing time. And then you got Perkins also that needs to get some at-bats, really pushes Yelich to almost a full-time DH, which I don't think they want. So I think Frelick needs to find at bats in other areas on certain days or whatever. And I thought third base is a possibility. So I'm going to agree with you and go with the under, though. I think it'll be like 0 or about 8.
You think that Yelich would ever agree to start learning first base? I know it's been kind of discussed in the past, and he hasn't really adopted them.
Well, I think this would be the year
to ever be willing to play first? Because I could see this year he could spell, him and Hoskins. I'm not going to call it a platoon, but I think that between them they could play first in DH, and Yelich still somewhat in the outfield. But I think going forward, Hoskins is gone after this year probably.
Yeah, so I think they should explore it with him and possibly even start getting him some reps in spring training this year if that's the case. Because getting a soft platoon with Yelich some reps at first baseman with the current setup going into the season, assuming we don't add another first baseman, makes a ton of sense, and also gives a nice transition year if Yelich were to become a full-time first baseman next year. I don't know what their thoughts are on that, but that does make perfect sense to me. That's for sure.
Same here, and I would love to see it because again, I think that we lose Hoskins, after this season, most likely at least, and you could easily slot Yelich then into playing first base. It'd be a little less wear and tear on his body, which he could probably use at this point in his career. He's going to be 33 next season and then 34 by the time that Hoskins would be gone. So it would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing with Hoskins is like, I think we're going to be overpaying him this year, but I'm kind of glad he's still on the team because I feel like he's motivated to have a good season. Because if he does have a good season this year, he's going to get paid next year by someone other than us. And if he has a terrible season, then we're not going to want him back. So in almost either scenario,
or we sign him again for cheap. It's like one of those 3 possibilities.
Yeah. So, all right. The fifth inning is another over and under on the number of innings pitched that Brandon Woodruff throws in 2025 at 100 innings pitched. Over or under?
Oh my gosh. I'm having the interns look up one thing here. I want to see what he threw. His last 2023, he threw 67 innings, and the year before that was 153. Oh wow. I'm gonna say I'll say over because I tend to be an optimist. I'll say over. I don't necessarily expect it, but I'm gonna say over.
Well, myself as a pessimist chimes in with the under. I think I would be more optimistic with if there were reports that he was further along on his throwing program here as we enter January, but the latest is that he's not as far as long as I thought he'd be. So, I mean, I still think and hope he'll hit between 80 and 100 or more, but I'll just go with the under. So, all right, sixth
Yeah,
inning.
his career high is 179, and that was in 179 and a third, and that was in 2021, and he threw 100 over 150 innings in 2022. So it's not like it's unprecedented. He's done it several times. He threw over 100 in 2019 as well. 2020 was the weird COVID season. So it was really just 2023 and then missing all of last year where he has not reached that milestone since he was a rookie. So just throwing that out there as well.
All right. Sixth inning. Which current Brewers minor leaguer will finish 2025 as the Brewers' number one prospect?
Um, I'm going to predict that we'll see Jesus. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Made.
Oh yeah, good.
I'll say
Tammy, you stole my
yeah.
pick. Yeah.
I'll say Jesus Made, and I was going to pick Jefferson Cuero coming back from injury and still having the same talent that he had before the injury. But it's hard to predict how guys are going to come back right away from an injury like that. And he still hadn't played much at AAA. I think that was literally his first game at AAA when he got hurt last season. So I'm going to go with Jesus Made or Made. I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce it.
Like
So I
again,
expect our intern to
he's
me.
so young, but at third base and shortstop, he had a great, first introduction into full season ball, and or actually, and the Dominican Summer League, I should say. And so, yeah, again, everyone wants to dream of these, who's going to be the next Jackson Trio, even though or whatnot. And he's obviously stepping up. So they're going to look. Obviously, there's many Edbert Perez's as there are. There's probably 100 Edbert Perez's for every one Jackson Trio. And that's even with Jackson Trio not really solidifying himself as for sure star yet. But I mean, yeah. With that being said, I like Brock Wilken a lot. I like Jacob Mizorowski a lot. I really see those guys definitely being part of the 2026 Brewers right from the get go. But assuming they're not traded, but yeah, this guy I think has got a high ceiling, and yeah, I believe his name is pronounced Jesus Made. But for those of you who uh, those listeners and Burr fans, I guess, are hoping he doesn't get deported. Maybe you can call him Jesus Made or whatever. But yeah, so basically, I think he'll be a
No,
top.
he's got a green card, Greg. He's got a green card. He's good.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I think he's a name to watch, and maybe someone that most Burr fans aren't familiar with yet. So, all right, seventh inning.
The other kid I just wanted to give a little props to is a local area kid for me, at least down here in Houston, Braylon Payne, who was drafted last year, as you know, Craig, our number one
17th overall.
Yeah, and I really like him a lot. He was very well regarded here in Houston, as in the sense that he was known, amongst local baseball fans. And I think he was rated the number one outfielder coming out of the state of Texas. Had a commitment at the University of Houston last year. Definitely an interesting kid to keep an eye on. He's actually doing a autograph signing already down here at the TriStar show in a couple of weeks in Houston. So I may go try and shake his hand or something and say hi.
Yeah, you should do that. Absolutely. No, I'm a fan of his too, and he could very well top the list as well as our number one pick. Again, the Brewers thought he wasn't expected to go as high as the Brewers picked him. I think he was went about 20 spots higher than projected. But the Brewer scouting department definitely knows what they're doing, but they definitely have a type too, and that's in my opinion a leadoff outfielder, middle infielder type, and he's very similar in my opinion. Profile wise as Trenton Clark at the time, who turned into Trent Grisham, like kind of had coming out of high school and was picked around the same spot, in the middle of the draft, so of the first round. And
well, let's hope he doesn't blow a playoff game for us, and hopefully hits a lot better at the major league level. very small sample size, but the kid posted a 526 OBP in his minor league debut in the Carolina League last year. Just 4 games, but still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A small sample size for sure, but no, his arrow is definitely pointing up, and I think that he'll be a sleeper prospect for us for sure. All right, going on to the seventh inning. Predict this year's Brewers specialty breakout bullpen arm.
Oh man, let's go with Anderson. Again, we'll give the Brewers a ton of credit. They specifically targeted him. I'll say for a reason. So I'm gonna go with Anderson.
All right, I was considering him, but I am going to go with a name maybe no one's heard yet as a Brewer listener, and that's Craig Yoho, who is
Yeah,
had a phenomenal year in the minor leagues last year.
yeah,
He should be almost major league ready, and I think he'll come out of nowhere and possibly again we're all expecting either like it to be Abner Uribe or possibly Jacob Mizrowski, or if not the incumbent, I guess, and Trevor McGill, so to speak. I guess he can't even really be considered an incumbent outside the fact that he saved some games for us last year. But the bottom line is, yeah, it could just be someone out of nowhere, and he's got a nice profile, so I'll just go with him, and yeah, we'll move on from that. So, okay, so
very nice. Yeah, McGill, just for our listeners, he had 21 saves last year.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he had more than just a couple. So yeah, I really do think that he'll have first shot of locking down that closer job. We'll see. So all right, eighth thing actually segues this question. Predict who finishes the season with the most saves for the Brew Crew.
McGill. Yeah, I know. I think McGill is going to be the closer next year. I could see. I'd love to see it where it was. And I didn't even think about Yoho, but that's a really, really interesting arm to add to that late inning bullpen mix. I'm going to keep my pick as McGill as the closer. I'm going to be hopeful that Uribe can come back from, both injury and being a little, how do we say it charitably, reckless in some of his, on-field decisions. But let's say I would love to see some combination of Mizrowski, Uribe, maybe even Yoho getting us to the final spot for McGill in the ninth. So yeah, McGill's my pick.
Yeah, just to be different, this happens to most closers around baseball where they go for like a week or two stretch where they blow a couple of saves, and then all of a sudden they're, especially for non-established closers like Trevor McGill, and then they end up giving away their closer job to someone else, and then they run with it. I just get a sneaking suspicion that could happen to McGill this year. Hope not, obviously, as a Brewer fan, but I'll just predict that happens, and that out of nowhere again, Abner Uribe finds his form. And I think he has the best raw stuff of the guy that could really, he profiles to me as a future closer as long as he can get his stuff together and get a little bit better control. So I'll just go with him as a random dark horse, so to speak. And then that brings us to the ninth inning here of our rapid nine, and that is assuming the Brewers make the playoffs, hopefully not in the wild card again. And Freddie Peralta, again, this is assumption, would start game one, assuming he's not traded. Who would you give the ball to for game number two? Tobias Myers, Nestor Cortez, Aaron Savali, Brandon Woodruff, or other?
No, Brandon Woodruff. I mean, give it to the big dog in the playoffs. I love him. Yeah, Woodruff all day. In fact, I'd even consider starting Woodruff in game one of any playoff series, provided, of course, he's back from his injuries.
I do agree with that assessment. So I was gonna say Woodruff too, but I'll
go
with Myers.
Hopefully Clayton Kershaw is pitching too, and he's able to get in at bat.
That'd be great. Yeah. So, but as a backup, just assuming maybe Woodruff is innings limit or something, I'll go with Tobias Myers, who I think will continue having another breakout season and elevate his status as a great Major League Baseball pitcher in this rotation this year. Is pretty excited to see him this year again. So
I agree, and in fact, we did a rapid nine, Craig, when we were going into the playoff series. I know it's painful, but against the Mets, and we talked about who would get the nod, and I think we both actually picked Myers at that point as well, before that was announced. So no, we're both very high on Tobias Myers. I would give it to Woodruff just because he's got that big game experience. I know, well, Myers does now too, but I think just given his veteran status, I'd give it to Woodruff. I think he's a big game pitcher, and I think Myers is developing into that as well. So nice to have some actual options if we are able to make the postseason again.
Yeah, that's right. That's interesting. You point that out, and that is correct. We both did predict it, and we were both wrong as they went with Frankie Montas. But Tobias Myers did start game 3, so
yeah, exactly.
We weren't far off.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way. So, but
no, and he actually posted a 0.00 ERA in his first and only playoff appearance. 5 innings pitched, allowed 2 hits over 5.
Nice. So yeah, that kind of is our theme here at the Brook Review. We're very seldomly correct, but we're usually not far off. So thank you
for true. We try hard.
Tuning in. Yeah, we give it our best. So yeah, so that wraps up this episode. Again, we're hoping whenever there's a breaking news, next time the Brewers sign someone to a 5 or 6 year contract, I will guarantee you that we will get on that same day and give you some analysis. If of how much we'd like Alex Bregman and all this stuff, if that happens. If it does not happen, we will be back in our next episode talking about what we think about the Paul DeJong signing or whatever it may be.
Oh God. Can we talk about the Alec Bohm trade? I mean, maybe that'd be more exciting for our listeners. I did.
That's
threw that out there on Twitter, and there was some very positive responses from Brewer fans, kind of excited about that being a possible deal. One of our interns posted this morning, like, to the Brewers, can we please just do something, like anything? And a lot of people have been engaging with that message here today.
Yeah, no, I just don't know who's out there, but I think a trade like for an Alex Bohm or someone does make a lot of sense. But whether or not we can get that done at this point, we'll see. But yeah, hopefully this is not the whole team we're going into the season with, and so I think we're still lying in the weeds, and hopefully we sign someone of some quality here in the next month or so because what are we about a little over a month out from pitchers and catchers, 2 great words in the English language. So
yeah, exciting stuff, exciting times. I know once we get past Christmas and New Year's and the holidays and all, it's nice to start to focus on baseball again. So we're not there yet, but we're getting close. I also wanted to quickly, I have to say this every year, and it bothers me every year, but I'm going to say it again. I really wish that the Brewers would bring back the Fan Fest. I can't believe that the Brewers are one of the few organizations in baseball to not have anything for their fans in the offseason. I think it's ridiculous. They've used COVID as an excuse for 2 seasons, and then they tried to bring it back and had a limited engagement in a bar, which again is fine with me. But I
was at that one, and that was as a non-drinker, a pro Brewer fan, but non-drinker. I even went to that bar one, as you know, and Matt Arnold actually made me a drink that I didn't drink, but I ordered it. So, but no, that was cool. But again, it wasn't the right setting, in my opinion. I mean, Willie Damas was a big star that day or whatever. I think I got a photo with Aaron Ashby and Garrett Mitchell, but for the most part, it was just not. They do better, Mark.
As you point out, yeah, it's stupid because number one, the whole team wasn't there. Number two, it's consigned to one bar in one city of the state. In a very small space. And number 3, there are people like, I would go in there and have a drink, but there are people that don't drink, like you said, and there are people who have kids that they certainly wouldn't want to bring into a bar. And I can empathize with that. And I don't think I don't think a bigger event would then preclude you from having a smaller one at a bar later that night, even with a couple guys, to make it an all-day thing or more fun or more laid back or whatever it is. But you should still have the big event with the whole team, and you should do it in a bigger place that's open to everybody. And you should also make it, pretty cheap and reasonable as well. So no, the whole organization, I think, needs to really readjust their sights on that and bring it back. And I would expand it rather than limit it. I think it's ridiculous that a team, especially a team that's so ingrained in the state's culture like the Brewers, don't do that. It's a travesty.
I agree. I can't believe that they've spent another season doing absolutely nothing for the fans, and they've got to do that. Absolutely. So
it's a no-brainer. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Make sure to follow us on social media, not TikTok. I think that might be banned by the time this airs.
Yeah,
But
it's
we're
owned by
on,
the Chinese.
what
Don't do
else
that.
are we on, Vince?
Give us a follow on X. Brewker Review One is our Twitter or our X handle. You shoot us an email at Brewker Review Podcast with an S at gmail.com, and we will most definitely get to your questions one of these days, one of these episodes. And yeah, we look forward to engaging with y'all again throughout the year here in 2025. This is our first episode of this brand new calendar year, so very excited for another Brewer season, and also very excited to be coming at you again. This is we've been doing this since 2004, Craig, in one form or another between TV and the podcast. And I know that on behalf of you and Chad and Scotty and Vikram, we're all excited to bring another year of analysis here with Brewker Review.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, listeners. Stay classy and go Brewers.
Go Brewers. Thanks, guys. Do, 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 do.